Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Cordina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 446 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by the main man himself, the former heavyweight world title challenger, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week, sir?
I'm doing great, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. We're going to dive straight into the review part of the show, and my prediction is that this is not going to take too long because I'm going to really try to run through this quite quickly. And I didn't see a great deal of boxing this week, and neither did Eddie. So let's dive straight in at the Aju University in Suwon, South Korea. Over here, big upset. Hyun Choi. She was 21-0 with one draw. She boxed for the vacant WBA Gold World Lightweight title over 10-2s. She ended up dropping a split decision to Jessica Kamara, the underdog, now 13-4. Really happy for her. Like I said on last week's show, I felt that when she boxed Callie Reese for one or two world titles, she should have been victorious that night. I think that, the judges gave Callie Reese the fight, and it was the wrong girl to win that night there. So yeah, persistence has paid off, and Kamara's gone all the way to South Korea and beaten Hyun Choi. Took her as well in the process. That's a great win for her. Really happy for her. Moving now to Liverpool. It was on DAZN. It was at the Exhibition Centre in Merseyside over here. Gonna start with the undercard again. I didn't really see any of this card, just little bits. Joe McGraw now 10-0, a points win for him over 8 against Ryan Walker, now 12-7. Maisie Rose Courtney with a points win over 8-2. She's now 6-0. She was able to beat Jessipina Di Stefano, now 7-3 with a draw. Junaid Bostan went into round 8, but he did get the TKO. I thought this one could have gone the distance, but he got the late stoppage. He's now 9-0, a TKO there, like I say, in the 8th against Jack Martin, now 9-2. Martin down from a left uppercut prior to the stoppage. Also on the card as well, Beatriz Ferreira, now 5-0, but more importantly, the new IBF lightweight champion of the world. Obviously for a world title, so over 10-2. She stepped in with Yanina Lezcano, who we'd seen go the distance in a loss earlier this year to Caroline Dubois. It was kind of heading that way, I think it would have probably gone the distance, but there was a bad head clash, and it opened a cut over Lezcano's left eye in the 5th round, and then, like I say, ended up being a technical decision in the 6th round there, so it went to the cards, and Ferreira, of course, was well ahead, so she's the new champion of the world. And the main event, Peter McGraw, he looked quite good. I did see bits of this fight. He's now 9-1, a unanimous decision for him over 10 rounds against Mark Leach, who's now 18-4 with a draw. I don't know how much notice Leach had, but good stuff for McGraw to win. I did think that there could be some hairy moments for him, because obviously he was coming off a stoppage defeat himself to Jericho O'Quinn, and Mark Leach is, he's a pressure fighter, and he can really put it on you. If you're lacking in confidence, the last man you want in the opposite corner is Mark Leach. He can be quite relentless, but credit to Peter McGraw. I felt he boxed quite well, his judge's distance was really good, his footwork was really good, and he obviously had quite a few more gears than Leach. Moving now to the Liacouras Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA. Going to start with the undercard as well. Mashin Kaysen is now 12-0, a TKO for him in the second against Lamont Capers, now 11-22 with 5 draws. Nikita Ababi now 13-0. His opponent Jesus Silva, I believe, only had about 2 days' notice. He's now 6-4. He was stopped in the first round. Henry Hank Lundy now 32-14 with a draw. A split decision over 6 rounds to Juan Rodriguez, who's now 11-23 with a draw. So he's got a real bad record. Just a split decision win over 6 there for Hank Lundy at home in Philly. Also on the card, Jesse Hart back with a bang, now 31-3. A TKO for him in the 5th against Daniel Aduku, now 15-5 with a draw. Joey Dawako as well moved to 28-1. Sorry, not 28-1. He wishes 28-11 with 4 draws. His opponent Walter Burns is now 7-2 because Walter Burns retired on his stall after 3 rounds. And in the main event, I think it was a first round knockout for Andrew Tabiti, now 21-2. The KO came, like I say, in the first round against Junior Anthony Wright, who's now 20-6 with a draw. Moving to the final card to mention, it went down at the Save Mart Arena in Fresno, California, USA. It was live on DAZN. On this card, Oscar Duarte, now 27-2 with a draw. A knockout in the 9th round against Jojo Diaz, now 33-6 with a draw. First time that Diaz has been stopped. Really, hard to watch because I do like Jojo a heck of a lot. Like I say, he's an extremely honest guy. We've had him on this show in the past, and he's gone to real deep depths in his honesty, talking about, for example, his alcohol addiction and the rest of it, and making weight and collapsing and all sorts of things. I've had to say to him after the phone calls, are you sure you want me to put that out there, my man? And he says, yes, that's totally fine. So I got a lot of respect for Jojo. But yeah, he did start quite nicely, Sergio Mora picked up on it on the commentary. He said, look at Jojo. He's came in shape. His skin looks really clear. He just looks really healthy. He looks like he's 5 or 6 years younger. And I saw all of that. I agreed with that. He looked like he was in good shape. Something about his appearance, he just looked really, really healthy. And I can't really say that, I thought that in his recent few performances. He just seems to be like an old but young man. But here, he looked really youthful again. And I don't know what's happened. I don't know what that's down to, but he looked like a young man again, and he was very, very sharp in the first few rounds. But then obviously, as the rounds progressed, Duarte did start getting a foothold in the contest and then starting to really, up the ante, and he started to outwork Jojo and catch him with some big shots. In the end, the referee jumped in and stopped it. Diaz wasn't happy with that stoppage there, and they're saying that's probably the end of the road for him. I think he's now lost 5 of his last 6 or 4 of his last 5 fights, so he's in absolutely dreadful form. The commentary team were kind of just saying this is like a last roll of the dice for him. He's come in good shape, he's took it seriously, and he gets stopped for the first time, which was a bit of a shame for him, like I say. But I don't know what to make of it. He did say he's going to come back again. I hope he does come back again, but I don't know. Something's just not there with Jojo now. I don't know if he's abused his body with substances outside of the ring. I don't know what it is, but it's a great shame that he's racking up losses, to these guys. No, that's no knock on Duarte. Credit to him. Like I say, this is a fantastic win for him. I want to see him back out in another big fight. You can't take anything away from him. He did his job. Also on the card, Marlon Esparza, now 14-2. She lost to Gabriela Alanis, now 15-1. It was a rematch. It was for the vacant WBA, WBC and WBO flyweight world titles. Esparza came in overweight, so the belts were only on the line for Alanis. I felt that Esparza won the fight. I thought the first few rounds were quite close and it was competitive up to the midway point. But then in the second half of the fight, I really felt that Esparza started to pull away, and she wasn't the busier fighter at all, but she was picking her shots well. And when the fight was fought at long range, Esparza was working her jab and was landing the eye-catching shots, even though Alanis would have a little burst of success and throw a nice combination that would catch the eye of the judges. Esparza was bossing things, I felt, and nicking rounds. But in the end, like I say, the split decision goes to Alanis, and I was really shocked by that one, actually. Esparza, I think, in the end came in about 2 pounds over the weight. So it's not really too good, especially down at flyweight. But I did think she won. Also on the card, Jose Ramirez. This was a crazy fight. He's now 29-1. It was a great 30th fight for him. He stepped in the ring with Rantis Barthélemy, now 30-3 with a draw. It was a good fight. And, like I say, Barthélemy, you can't always say that about him. He hurt Ramirez early on in the fight, really wobbled Ramirez, was kind of unable to follow up on it, but a few times Barthélemy would be catching Ramirez, I think with the left hand, and Ramirez didn't know what to do. He couldn't get out the way of the shot. He did kind of rally back, like I say, and he was the busier of the two, and obviously racked up a bunch of rounds, and he was the clear victor in the end over 12 rounds, unanimously for Ramirez. But like I say, there was some really hairy moments. He's been very inactive, fighting just once per year. Barthélemy as well. I think Jack Reese wanted to kind of stop it towards the end. He was taking a bit too much punishment late on. But it was a rare but really good fight from Barthélemy, and he provided a seriously hard test for Ramirez. I think it was a lot harder of a test than we all expected, and I don't think, based off of that Ramirez can do too much at 140 with the guys there. The likes of Richardson, Hitchens, and people like that you'd expect to be able to have their way with Ramirez. I don't think he's the fighter he perhaps once was. And yeah, also on the card, almost forgot. Well, he's still undefeated. He's now 21-0 with 21 KOs. Still has that 100% streak going. That's incredible. A knockout in the first round for Virgil Ortiz against Thomas Delorme, now 26-7 with a draw. Delorme coming off about 2 years out the ring. Down and out from a body shot. Could not get up. It didn't matter if the referee counted to 30. He was not getting up. We did say on last week's show, you're boxing a guy who Jaron Ennis has boxed, and it's kind of impossible to outdo a first round knockout. And obviously we know that everyone's going to be getting their measuring sticks out, because Ortiz and Ennis have always been, closely kind of, compared, I guess. Everyone wanted to see that fight at one stage. Looks unlikely, but Virgil Ortiz is doing his thing. We know now that he's going to be boxing Tim Tszyu next. That's going to be a hell of a fight. I'm sure you're excited for that one, Eddie, and we will speak about it another time. But Thomas Delorme gets stopped in a round again. So both Ortiz and Ennis have both stopped him in just one round. It was a peach of a body shot. And yeah, like I say, he was down and out. A nice quick knockout. And on to the next one for Virgil Ortiz. Anyway, that brings the review part to a close. It's now time to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man with the longest winning streak of any British fighter right now. Not only that, but this man is undefeated. This man is world ranked with a WBO. It is, of course, the main man himself, Mr. Archie Sharp. Archie, welcome back on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me on, mate. It's been a while. I'm pleased to be back on. Hope all is well.
There we go. All is well, my friend. So, Arch, we last spoke back in May of last year, so pretty much a year ago. Things have been quite slow, I think it's fair to say, in your career for the last couple of years. That's the reason we haven't had you on sooner than this, but things are finally looking brighter for you. Before we talk about the recent news, you did return to the ring back in December. I was there that night at York Hall. You boxed Victor Julio. You beat him on points over 8. Just a cobweb shaker, Arch.
Yeah, for sure. That I say, it was back out in December against Victor. It was just, I think you was there, as you said. You know what you saw. He just there to better surviving mode in the end. You know, it was just tricky. But I think he did. He went on and boxed the Kazakhstan kid after myself, and he had the same problem. So it was just nice to get the rounds for myself. And then, we kick on now, big year ahead.
And talking of the big year, let's get on to that recent news. I mean, you've decided to rejoin Queensberry and Frank Warren. They were responsible for your rise early on in your career. You left, obviously, to join MTK. You're now back. Tell me a little bit about that, Arch.
Yeah, so obviously I've been with, started my career off with Frank, as you know, and then I had an opportunity come to me just at the end of 2000, and I think it was 20, or 21. I think the last fight was with Frank, and then to join a new company, Probellum. And then so that was the plan. I was going to go to Probellum out in Dubai and whatever else fights that were supposed to be out there. Sonny did headline a show out there at the Coca-Cola Arena, but unfortunately I got injured on there, so I didn't end up fighting. But yes, that's what kind of really happened, mate. Now, like you say, unfortunately things didn't go to plan, and now we're back with Frank, which is good. Frank and Eddie have got some big news, big things that have been happening over the last year or so. So yeah, I've come back at a great time, and I'm very excited. Boxing's really good at the minute, and especially in the super-featherweight division. So yeah, it's been a very sticky couple of years for myself, but we put them years behind now and we move on. And like I say, it's time to carry on when I left off with Frank.
Yeah, and obviously that time that you spent away from Frank, you know, you've took a few fights in that time. Obviously, you've still won every fight you've had, which, you know, people I guess don't really think about this, but if you would have picked up a loss in that time, you'd be in a real bad spot now trying to get back, you know, with Frank or whoever else suffering a loss, you know, under those circumstances. Yeah, so I want to ask you this, Arch. If you could go back in time, would you have stayed with Queensberry the whole time, or do you not regret leaving?
No, because at the time, the thing is, I've got a family, as you know, and at the time when I left, things wasn't really going. Not that it wasn't going my way, because I was busy. 2019 was great. I had a great 2019, very busy, very active. Got myself up to highly ranked in the BO with Frank, and an opportunity come, a business opportunity come, and it was something I couldn't really turn down. And I spoke to Frank as well, and even he said, you know, like when you're getting that sort of money and things offered in front of you, it's hard to turn down. But look, we thought we took the decision to go with the new plan, and unfortunately it never planned out the way that we wanted it to plan out. So therefore, I've had to pay the consequences of that decision, which meant being inactive for a couple of years. So that's what I paid the consequence of making that decision. And now we wipe the slate clean, and yeah, we move on now. So I wouldn't change it. I think timing everything happens for a reason, Joey, and I really do believe that everything happens for a reason. And I think the timing now, I said it in an interview a couple of days ago, this is the Archie Sharp that the TV, Frank Warren, and other people haven't seen. So I'm looking forward to showcasing that since the last time I boxed with Frank.
And before speaking with Queensberry, you know, to re-sign with them, can you tell us if you spoke to anyone else, and if so, who?
Yeah, I spoke to a few. Because the thing is now, where I am in my career, I know I feel young, and I haven't had much mileage on the clock. My next signing was obviously got to be crucial. You know, I'm 29 now, so the next signing I need it to be to get me to the world titles and the big fights. So yeah, we did have a conversation with everyone else, and look, like I say, I'm familiar with Frank. I know everyone in the office. I know everyone behind the team. So it just made sense to myself.
And obviously we talk all the time, so I know what's what, but the situation with the WBO at Super-Featherweight has been really hard for most fans to follow. It's been really confusing even for me and you, to be honest, and we know more than the guy off the street. But yeah, the rules seem to be being made up as they go along sometimes. Top Rank seem to not only have the champion, but seem to have everyone who gets a shot at the title too. Getting back with Frank, it's no secret that, you know, he's got a great relationship with the WBO. Should we expect you to be moving back up the rankings rather than mysteriously moving down them despite winning?
Yeah, I would like to think so, mate. I would like to think so, but like I said, the main thing is dealing with next week on the 11th of May, and then sit down and see what the plan is moving forward for the rest of the year. Because like I said, there's some great things happening at the minute. You've got Frank and Eddie shows, so the 5v5s. Eddie Hearn's got Zelfa Barrett, Joe Cordina. There's a couple. Them two fights I'm really interested in myself. Obviously, firstly, you got Cacace and Cordina. But yeah, it's very exciting. And the WBO, I'm sure there will be, it'll be my time up there. I think they put me to number 4 at the minute. I believe Lee Wood just one above. Albert Bell's still about. So yeah, we shall see. We'll see what happens and what unfolds within the next couple of months.
And yeah, you mentioned it there. It's great to see you already have a fight date locked in. May the 11th back at the York Hall. I think that's going to mean that 5 of your last 7 fights would have been there. Back live on TNT. Do you know who you're fighting yet? If you do, are you able to tell us, or are you not able to tell us?
So there has been a name briefly mentioned. I believe it's going ahead. I'll be honest with you, Joe, if I said the name now, I don't know myself. I've literally forwarded over to Ian and Richard. They've had a look. They've agreed. It's an Argentinian kid. He boxed the Kazakhstan kid. I'll get his name wrong every time. Zoltan, is it?
Sultan Zorbek, I'm going to say.
Yes, that's the correct one. Yeah, so he boxed him, and he's boxed also a couple of the fellow who Wayne Batten used to train. Same again, lost my names now. But yeah, he's been in the ring with good opposition, and he's handled himself. And he's pretty strong from what I see. So I've only watched 30 seconds of him. Like I said, I've left it to Ian Richard to deal with. They just said he's an orthodox fighter, so I'll just adapt. I won't really watch much. I'll just get stuck in and deal with it, and hopefully an early night, mate. I'm not here to mess around on the 11th. It'll be in and out and getting the job done.
And am I right in saying that this will be 2 fight camps in a row without Roy Jones being present in Camp Arch? And if that is the case, will he still be involved moving forward?
Yeah, that is correct. I was with Roy the other week when he was over. It's been a bit hard because things have been lastminute.com in the last couple of fights, or in the last couple of years, should I say. The last couple of fights that I've had have literally been 3-4 weeks' notice. With this fight, I think it got released 3 weeks ago. There was talks about me being on the show before it got released, but until things were actually announced and released, it was always a bit, like for myself, a bit touch and go, you know. So I didn't want to make any plans with Roy because it's a big commitment for himself coming over from the States. But yeah, so moving forward, I believe I'm out again in July, at the end of July, for a title fight, hopefully. So it'll be in camp for then. So yeah, Roy is still on the scene and he's still behind, guiding myself, Richard, and Ian. So yeah, he's still part of the team, and he's still going to be a big part of it.
And a week after your fight, I think you touched on it, we'll be seeing 2 other super featherweights battling it out in Saudi for a super featherweight world title. Joe Cordina, Anthony Cacace, 2 men that you've been linked with for a long time. How do you see that fight playing out, Arch? I know that you got a lot of interest in that one.
Yeah, I've got a lot of interest in that. So to be honest with you, it's interesting because win, lose or draw for Cacace, it'll be interesting for myself and Cacace to actually get that fight, maybe hopefully in July or whenever, because there's been a lot of back and forth. Obviously, ideally, I would want the winner. But if Joe Cordina wins, then I've been told he's going to lightweight, but we shall see. But for the fight itself, I do think it all depends on game plan, like every other fight. Cacace can cause problems for many fighters. Cordina's obviously shown that he's very, very sharp, and like I say, I've been told he's tight at the weight, so it'll be interesting to see if that plays a part of it. And I think I'm backing Cordina to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was any upset, like if it went the other way.
And I want to ask you as well, who is actually on your radar right now realistically for the next couple of fights? Because that's a question that if I ever asked you it before, we'd say, oh, you might want to fight that guy, but that's politically not going to happen. But with Frank and Eddie, now seeming to be able to sit at the business table, it opens up, this list, this roster of fighters that now could possibly get made. So it's quite an interesting question, I think, now, that one.
Yeah, so I agree. There are some fighters there. You got, obviously, on Frank's side, you got Cacace, which very interests me. And then Zelfa Barrett with the 5v5 also is very interesting. If you asked me this beforehand, obviously it was only going to be Oscar Valdez, Navarrete, Shakur Stevenson. They was only the names on my radar, but now things have definitely changed politically. I reckon there's some other fights out there for myself because nobody knows what's happening with Navarrete at the minute. Depends if he wins in May. Oscar Valdez is still there, so he still is obviously on the radar now. He's the interim. But there is a new guy who's just come onto my radar. Is the guy who beat Jamel Herring. He's now got my belt, my WBO global belt. So if that means me quickly going to beat him up just to get my belt back, then so be it.
Jackson John England is the guy, yeah. Okay. Also, this weekend, we're going to be seeing Canelo and Munguia. A lot of people really hyped up for this one. Obviously, it's an unbeaten Mexican against, a Mexican legend. A lot of people were actually saying that, Munguia's got a big chance here. It's not going to be a walk in the park for Canelo. Do you have a prediction for that one, Arch?
Yeah, I agree with that, to be fair. I think it's going to be a hard fight, and I think it's going to be a hard fight for Canelo. But to be honest with you, I'm just going to back Canelo just for preference because I feel like I think he's a great fighter. But yeah, that's why I'm going to back Canelo. I'm going to go. I can't see anyone being stopped. I think it'll go points. Yeah. But either way, I think it's going to be a great fight. I think they're both going to be in the middle. There's going to be some great shots given and taken from both fighters.
Yeah, I agree with every word of that, to be totally honest with you, mate. Before we wrap things up, if you've got any closing words, Arch, I think once upon a time you'd been on the podcast more than any other fighter. I know it might even still be a record that you hold, but yeah, it's probably the longest that we've gone without having you on, almost a year. So if you want to just come back with a little message before we wrap things up, take it away, my man.
Yeah, just the usual, mate. Just thanks for all the support that everyone's had and tuning in to yourself and me. And I'm just looking forward to what we've got coming. I really believe this is now the time for myself. Like I say, back with Frank Warren now, so stay tuned. We've got some big fights ahead and some big news. And watch me win a world title.
There we go. Big year for you, Arch. Absolutely. The pleasure's always mine. Thanks for your time. Best of luck on the 11th, and we'll certainly speak sometime after that.
Cheers, Joe. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, usually the news part, but there's nothing to bring you just yet. We're going to dive straight into the preview part instead. We're going to start here at the Edion Arena, Osaka, in Osaka, Japan, over here on Saturday. Emmanuel Rodriguez, one of my favourite fighters from well, not even from Puerto Rico. He's from Puerto Rico, but he's one of my favourite fighters to watch. I think he's a really skilled technician that doesn't get the credit he deserves. He's 22-2, defending his IBF bantamweight world title against Ryosuke Nishida, who's 8-0. All the best there to Rodriguez away from home. Moving now to the big one at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. Let's touch on the undercard first. We're going to see Jesus Ramos Jr. back in action, 20-1. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's coming off that really bad performance he had against Erickson Lubin, in which he kind of let Erickson Lubin reignite his own career because he was going through a bit of a rough patch. So yeah, Jesus Ramos coming off that loss there. He's 20-1. He steps in the ring with Johan Gonzalez, who's 34-2. It's over 10 rounds at super welterweight. Gonzalez, though, his 2 losses. One was a split decision loss to Charlie Navarro. The other loss was all the way in Russia. He lost on points to Magomed Kurbanov, who we know is a decent fighter. So, yeah, the scary thing about Johan Gonzalez, never been stopped in his 2 losses, and he's got 33 KO wins from his 34 wins. So he can certainly punch, if nothing else. That would be quite interesting there. He's a Venezuelan, 33 years of age. Moving up the card once again, we're going to go now to this one here. Imantis Stanionis, currently 14-0. He steps in the ring with Gabriel Maestra, who's 6-0 with a draw. That one for the WBA welterweight world title. Stanionis hasn't boxed though since April of 2022, so he's coming off 2 years out the ring. Very, very good fighter. And Maestra, obviously, we've seen what he can him do. He's got 5 KOs in his 6 wins. He's got that 1 draw as well. And we know that he should have lost 100% to Michael Fox. So, bit of a questionable record, and yeah, he's exciting to watch and all the rest of it, but he's 37 years of age, and I would expect Stanionis, if he's not rusty, to have a bit too much for him. Also on the card, we had him on last week's podcast, Mario Barrios, 28-2, coming off a career best win last time against Yordenis Ugas. He's back here for his own WBC interim welterweight world title. He steps in with Fabian Maidana, the brother of Marcos Maidana. He's 22-2 with 16 KOs. This should be a good fight. He's really hungry, and it's a must-win for Maidana if he wants to, announce himself, I guess, on the world stage. And I think Mario said last week he wants to, step out of his brother's shadow. This is the perfect opportunity to do that. Also on the card as well, friend of the show, Brandon Figueroa, 24-1 with a draw. He boxes here, defending his WBC interim featherweight world title against former world champion Jesse Magdaleno, 29-2. Could be interesting. Magdaleno, though, coming off a loss a year ago to Raymond Ford. You've got to go right back to May of 2022 for the last time he won a fight. And also, the last time he won a meaningful fight was even longer ago than that. Should be a good one, but like I say, Jesse Magdaleno's only 5'4", obviously southpaw. That's got its own that poses its own threats, I suppose. But being 5'4", up at featherweight, boxing Brandon Figueroa, who we know is relentless with a 5-inch reach advantage as well, I reckon that Brandon Figueroa will probably get the stoppage here against Magdaleno, I would say. But it should be a good fight, as every Brandon Figueroa fight is. And obviously, getting straight to the main event, Eddie, I'm going to come to you. Saul Canelo Alvarez, 60-2 with 2 draws, defending his undisputed super middleweight world titles, IBF, WBA, WBC and WBO, against Jaime Munguia, 43-0. We were criticising Munguia because since moving from 154 to 160, I think it was, and then I don't know if I've got my wires crossed. He now finds himself up at 168, but basically, his opposition of late has been awful since pretty much the world title days where he was a reigning champion. And don't forget, he's still undefeated, so never lost his belt in the ring. His opposition level's been quite bad, and I'm going to reel off a few of them. I remember he boxed Takeshi Inoue. He boxed Dennis Hogan. That was at 154. Boxed Patrick Alote, and then when he moved up to 160, it's been quite bad. Gary Spike O'Sullivan, Turiano Johnson, Camille Serrameta, Gabe Rosado, Demetrius Ballard, and Jimmy Kelly as well. That fight there went down, I think, in his first fight up at 168. He boxed Sergei Derevianchenko at 168. That one there was a really close fight. The knockdown in the last round won him the fight, and then obviously last time got a stoppage against John Ryder, which was a good win. Saul Canelo Alvarez, as we know, really, really good fighter. Both men are coming off wins against John Ryder. Canelo did actually have the Jamel Charlo fight in between that, I should mention, but yeah. This is going to be an all-Mexican war. It's going to be an exciting fight. We know that Munguia is going to bring the pressure. We know that Munguia has a great chin, just like Canelo does. I think it's going to be a really exciting fight here, Eddie. A lot of people, though, are highlighting the fact that Munguia, with his pressure, Canelo possibly not at his best anymore, we could be in for an upset here. That's what some people think. Some people I've even seen are picking Munguia for a late stoppage in this fight. I can't see that. I'm going to side with Canelo on points, but it should be a good fight. And I think if Munguia comes and brings that relentless pressure, it'll be even more exciting.
Couldn't agree with you more. I'm even, dare I say, looking at Canelo possibly, stopping him late. Shit, you never know. I mean, he's explosive, Canelo. You know what I mean? He's skilled. He's a vet. He's been at this for a very long time. And, it doesn't look as if he's slowing down to that degree. I mean, if you factor in the loss to Bivol, that's, that could have happened at any point. You know what I mean? So I can't really say that he's lost a step. He has to prove that. And Munguia is a formidable guy. You know what I mean? He's got a lot of fights. He's, like you said, he's been in with he's been a champion before, for a while actually. But I still see Canelo having the upper hand in this. I do understand what they're saying, and if he's lost a step, he's a little older. But Canelo is still Canelo until he proves he's not. If he gets old overnight, that's one thing. That can happen. His last performance still proved that he was, he's still great. Obviously beating Charlo and John Ryder before that. Still explosive, still defensively pretty not pretty good, great. I just have to see it in order to think, because as of now, from looking at Munguia from his past performances, I just don't see anything that he can do, unless, of course, like we said, that Canelo's gotten old. That anything he could do to kind of prove, take control or prove that Canelo doesn't belong in the ring at this stage in his career, which obviously he does. I just don't see anything that can tell me that. However, Munguia is, like I said, very formidable. He can fight. He's been in high level fights with exciting fights. He's been hurt before. He's come back. He's hurt other guys. You know what I mean? The fight itself, I think, will be pretty exciting, and it is a younger challenger to Canelo, and somebody who's got a good track record. So it's going to look. So at least on paper, it looks like it's going to be a really, really interesting fight. Excitement wise, I just don't know if he's going to be skill wise capable of really stepping up to what Canelo is. Obviously, the experience as well. It's just, I don't know. I haven't seen enough from him to prove that he's at this level. He's elite. I'm not saying he's not elite, but is he at this level elite? This is the best of the best. So we'll have to see. I'm looking forward to it for sure, though. Cinco de Mayo fight this year with this. Let's see if Munguia can prove that he belongs at this level anyway. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, should be a good one. And then moving to the final two cards. One goes down at the Humble Civic Center in Humble, Texas, USA. Over here, good friend of the show, good friend of mine, Susie Ramadan, former world champion, 29-4. She's back in a 6-2s contest against Judith Hatchbold, who's 5-18. All the best there to Susie in Texas. And moving now to Monday, we're going to finish on a big card here as well. Goes down on Monday at the Tokyo Dome in Tokyo, Japan. I believe it comes on about 7 a.m. your time, Eddie, which is a real shame for Monday. But over here, midday, I believe it's going to be live on Sky Sports. But yeah, let's touch on the undercard. TJ Doheny, 25-4. He's back in an 8-rounder at Super Bantamweight against Bril Bayogos, who's 7-0 with a draw. We know that Doheny, at one point looked like he was finished, but then he come back and he's coming off 2 upset knockout wins in his last 2 fights, and both of them have been in Japan, both of them have been in Tokyo, so he absolutely loves fighting in Tokyo. He'll be well up for this fight here. I don't know if he's an underdog again, but if he is, I will be laying something down because he is so good in Japan. Also on the card, defending his WBO bantamweight world title, Jason Maloney, 27-2, steps in with Yoshiki Takai, who's 8-0. We're going to see Takuma Inoue, 19-1, defending his WBA bantamweight world title against Sho Ishida, who's 34-3 these days. Also on that card, we're going to see Saigo Akui, 19-2 with a draw. defending his WBA flyweight world title. He's coming off that win last time out against Artem Dalakian. He's back. He steps in with Taku Kuwahara, who's 13-1. And then, of course, the main event, Naoya Inoue defending the undisputed titles at super bantamweight, IBF, WBA, WBC, WBO, and he steps in with Luis Nery, 35-1. The one loss came to Brandon Figueroa back in 2021. They know him really well in Japan. Obviously, he's hated out there. Luis Nery went out there and beat Yamanaka back in 2017, and then obviously came in and, missed the weight quite badly in the end and beat Yamanaka in the rematch. And then I think he was banned from Japan. They hated him, but they've allowed him back in the country to fight Naoya Inoue here, and there'll be, I think, Japanese fight fans bathing for his blood on Monday. So it should be a good one while it lasts. But again, you'd have to side with Naoya Inoue, who, is arguably the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. I know Luigi, if he's listening to this podcast, that's certainly his pound-for-pound number one. He's certainly in everyone's top three, Naoya. So all the best to him. Should be exciting, as it always is. Anyway, that brings the preview part to a close. It's been a short kind of show this week. Again, we've flown through most of it. In part one, we did the review part. Then we welcomed our special guest. In part two, we did the preview part because there was no news to bring you. That's about everything, though. It's now time for me to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 446 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge shout out to this week's special guest, the undefeated super-featherweight contender, Mr. Archie Sharp. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. Thanks once again for tuning in. That is about everything, though, from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again same time next week.